Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where it has been a minute since we have done a proper morning commute out to do some bring a trailer photography at Vintique Motors. So on this lovely, foggy, strange Michigan morning, we are going to continue that tradition, and today we've got quite a strange vehicle as our companion. This is the 2026 Polestar 4, and I can't really even do my bit anymore where I say I don't often feature EVs on Topher Drives, because we have actually done quite a few of them lately. We just did the Toyota CHR out in California, we did the Nissan Leaf, which is the cheapest EV in the USA, and then we did the Porsche Macan Electric just a few weeks ago. So now we've got this thing, which, as you can see, now that we're back to this angle of it, you can see why it's so strange. This brand new Polestar model has no rear window. And the reason for this is to maximize, sorry, I should put this in quotes, to maximize space in the back seat. And we'll talk more about that once we get in it. But there are other strange things about this car as well, and other sort of fun things that made me really want to share it with you. And also, I love taking you guys all along on my morning commute. But before we get into the details, let's talk basics. So this is brand new in the US anyway for the 2026 model year. The Polestar 2 is taking a year off. It's going to be back for the 27 model year, but this is a bit bigger than that. If you think of the Polestar 2 as a 3 Series, this is more of a 5 Series size. This is about 9 inches longer than the Polestar 2, but for some reason, Polestar classifies this as a coupe SUV, but I don't know that it necessarily looks like that. I guess from some angles it does. I think the styling here is a bit outrageous, as James May would say, and from many angles, I think it looks like a Jaguar I-Pace. However, from the back, if you can get past it not having a rear window, I kind of think it looks like a Lamborghini Urus. I think it's something to do with the taillight. I don't know. I keep seeing it when I come back here. Anyway, though, underneath the design, what do we actually have propulsing us? Or is that a word? What's the propulsion system under this? Well, we have 2 electric motors because it's a Polestar, it's electric. And this is the dual motor, so you get 544 horsepower, 506 pound-feet of torque. This has a 100 kilowatt-hour battery. It's got about 280 miles of range, and it can charge from 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes. So it's pretty standard as far as EVs go. Now, this used to start at $62,000. However, now on the Polestar website, it's discounted by about 10 grand. So the Monroney I have for this car says it's $80,000, but if you go on the Polestar website and build it, it's 70. So that helps a little bit, but lots of the parts content in this. In fact, 96% of the parts are from China, but final assembly is in South Korea. So I don't know if that really helps as far as getting it into the US goes, but hey, we've got a discount and we can't complain. This car in front of us is absolutely loaded. We have the Plus pack, we have the Performance pack, and of course, we'll have the entire spec down in the description for you, but the Performance pack is the coolest thing because of all of the Swedish gold accents you get. Keen-eyed viewers will have noticed the 22-inch wheels, which today are on a snow tire. So thank you, Polestar, for wanting to keep all of your journalists and YouTubers safe. This would normally come on a high-performance summer tire, but today we're on a Pirelli Scorpion Winter in a 265 40-22 squared setup. So even though it's a 22-inch wheel, we've got a 40-section sidewall. I don't know. We'll see what this is like today. And beyond the wheels and tires, we get Brembo brakes with this Performance pack, which are also finished in Swedish gold. And then inside, we get the Swedish gold seat belts. And you can actually opt to have your cladding in body color. I think that's like the one option this car doesn't have, because we also have the Hydrochromic roof, which we'll show you once we're inside. But paint color, Stratus, they call this. Gray is what I would call it. But let's poke around the back. This is just so weird. This is effectively your rear window, because it's obviously you have to be able to see out the back of it. So they put a camera, and it's so strange because they have this little cutout here where a window probably could go. So I wonder, maybe in other markets do they put a window? But that would kind of go against their whole logic about deleting the window to add more space in the back, because you can kind of move the passenger bit back. You can see you got the Polestar logo here instead of where the rear window would be. That's kind of neat. Snow scraper, because it's that time of year in Michigan, and this trunk floor just falls out, so you kind of have to be careful when you lift it up. But underneath, you've got a bit more storage, and then you've got this like little mini cubby in the back to hold your charging cable or couple bags of groceries, I guess. That would be convenient. Or if you want to hide stuff, but you don't have to worry about privacy back here, for obvious reasons. But the actual space in the back is pretty decent. Honestly, I feel like this classifies, to me, in my opinion, as more of a liftback. We've got four-corner adaptive ZF. There are ZF adaptive dampers, or ZF. I'll be corrected however I say it. Four-corner adaptive suspension in this, which is not part of the performance pack. They are tuned differently in the performance pack, but all you have to do is get and Polestar 4, and you get the adaptive dampers. Okay, here's our key. Fun fact about this car, it's VIN number 1. Check that out. 000001. So in my mind, that means this is the first 2026 Polestar 4. Kind of sweet. So this is the key, and so is this, but the way you unlock it is by tapping the key card on the B pillar, like so, and then you can access it. Now, this is not necessarily the reality if you own the car, because if you have an iPhone, like I do, you can use a digital key. However, if you have an Android, you can't yet. There's going to be an integration for an app on the Android phones, but right now you can only get in with your phone if you have an iPhone. So you do have to do that with an Android, but it's still better than the Polestar 3, which, I hate saying this, but the Polestar 3 was kind of hateful, and this car isn't. It has many more redeeming qualities. Chief among which, backseat room. They weren't lying when they said that removing the rear window adds room. It kind of feels like I'm in a Maybach GLS when I sit back here, because your head is behind the C-pillar, which is quite peculiar. And also, if we fold down our massive, luxurious armrest here, the seats recline. Check it out. They don't move back and forth, but the backs of them move. And then we also have some cup holders. Come on. There they go. There you go. Okay. Hidden cup holders there that are a little bit annoying to get out. And then we have this armrest here, which is not a console. I keep thinking it is, but it's just some nice perforated leather. And it is real leather. Now, the Polestar 4 comes standard with synthetic leather, but this has the Bridge of Weir Nappa Leather, which Bridge of Weir, very iconic leather-making company that's been doing it since the 1700s. But what's unique about this leather is instead of them unaliving a cow strictly for its hide, they purchase the leather from a company that's already harvested the cow for its meat. So this is recycled leather in that way that it would have essentially just been thrown away, but they take it and they put it in the car. And it feels quite nice, actually. It's genuine leather. It's soft. They've done some nice designs. It's perforated. And these headrests are quite nice, too. You can rest your head on them with great comfort. But the star in the backseat really is the amount of room that you have. I love that they say this. But Polestar, they love labeling things. Polestar 4, 100% traced leather, animal welfare secured. Obviously, we have other luxury things back here. We've got heated rear seats, our own climate control panel, 2 USB-C ports, 2 seat back pockets, and even the rear seat passengers get the Swedish gold seat belts. So this has a 16-speaker Harman Kardon. It would normally only be 12, but when you get the Bridge of Weir seats, you get the headrest speakers as well in here. So that adds 2 headrest speakers to each front seat, making 16 total. The car is freaking out. We'll show you the Frunk, because you do get one in the Polestar 4. It's small, but it's there. There you go. Kind of like a Hyundai Ioniq 5 Frunk size, except I think this might actually be smaller. You could maybe fit like a couple rotisserie chickens in this, or perhaps, I don't know, 4 or 5 bushels of bananas. Okay, let's shut this Frunk. There's where you add your washer fluid. Doesn't shut with the most confidence there, but I suspect I'll get a warning message if it isn't closed all the way. So this is interesting, and I have to unlock the car again to show you this, because it keeps locking itself. Charge port is here on the back, and it doesn't have a NAX port. It just has this sort of traditional port. You can do level 2 or level 3, which has been nice for me because my charger at home is just a regular level 2 charger. So it's been convenient to charge this, and it charges pretty quickly on level 2 as well. I had it plugged in for about an hour in the garage yesterday, and it gained like 10%. So you'll have no problem getting this charged overnight on level 2. Up front, you can see this seat is adjusting to my position, as is the steering wheel. Now I may have to tell this. Okay, so it's loading the Polestar 4 profile. We're going to drop this climate control down to auto vent speed 1. I was very cold this morning, so I had it blasting. But sometimes it gets confused. So Polestar 4 is the profile that has all of my settings in it. However, I would say 1 out of every 5 times I get in, it defaults to the guest profile, which is very strange. And then you have to go in, and sometimes I don't notice, so I'm like, why is my CarPlay not connecting? Why is my seat wrong? And then you have to go in and you have to put it on your user profile. You can add profiles and do this whole thing. So this car, it's very frustrating when you get in, unless I assume you buy one and you have a salesperson that tells you how to use everything. I had to figure this out myself, but I've got the hang of it now, and some of these things actually make pretty good sense. Now, you do still get a volume knob, which is the only switch here in the middle. You've got a hazard switch, which is nice up here on this little map light control panel, which is better than the Volvo EX30, which had the hazard switch in the infotainment system, which is stupid. But that's a physical button. Obviously, the rearview mirror does nothing unless it's in its camera mode, but you can see fine out of it that way. Just hope that that never has any sort of malfunction. That would be very unfortunate. But on this massive 15.4-inch iPad that's glued to the dashboard, we have menu shortcuts. And this is actually not the only way to do the shortcuts. You can also use these physical buttons on this beautiful steering wheel here. They've learned from the Polestar 3. They've gotten rid of the haptic garbage. They've put actual buttons on this, and you've got lots of shortcuts to be able to control your one-pedal drive, your throttle response, and you can set these to different shortcuts, but then you've also got them over here. But if you've got your screen and CarPlay, which for some reason is not connected right now, so we're going to manually do that. Sometimes I've had to do that this week. Come on. It'll connect my phone and media, but then it won't, for some reason, do CarPlay. So you can see, if you got your CarPlay screen up, you can do the shortcuts over here, which we'll show you once we're out on the road. Otherwise, though, you've got this car menu where you've got more shortcuts. You can open the glove box in here, because there's obviously no button for the glove box, because why would they do that? But the coolest thing is working this hydrochromic roof. You can see I'm going to hit this reduce roof tint button, and boom, it's a bad day to show this off because it's just gray. I think we'll leave that reduced actually for today's drive. Otherwise, to make any sort of seating adjustments, you have to do that all in the screen, which I'm not going to do today because I've already got them dialed in. In this menu, you have all of your different drive adjustments, so your suspension, your steering, your one-pedal drive, all of that stuff. Driver assist, charging settings, your sound system settings for the 16-speaker Harman Kardon. You've got your lights here, your light switch, that's buried in the infotainment. Though I do imagine there's a shortcut for that somewhere too. And then in the interior, we have one of the coolest features here, and that is your ambient lighting, which is in the theme of the solar system. So I've got it in Neptune right now because I like the purple, but you can also go to the sun, and it gives you little facts about the planet. So the sun, our star as well. And there's a little Polestar flying through the solar system sometimes. This will tell you the sun, average temperature 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, average day 601 hours. Gives you the diameter, gives you the gravity. There's Mercury, there's Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And they left out my boy Pluto, which is pretty sad, but I guess the Pluto theme would probably be pretty similar to Mercury. Anyway, though, we're going to leave this in Neptune because I love that very much. But it's just fun things like this in this car. You know, they make it a bit more charming, something that's otherwise a little bit sterile. You can have the solar system as your ambient lighting, which is quite fun. Okay, well, we could spend all day doing this, and there are videos of like tech walkarounds and things for the Polestar 4, but let's just get this out on the road, and we'll show you what it's like to drive. Normally I'd have my seatbelt on, but I wanted you guys to hear the chime. And then also, actually, as far as places to put things, I've got my camera today because I'm going to do some shooting, and you can see that does fit in our lower console. This upper part floats. You've got two cup holders, which you can cover with this bit of aluminum. That looks quite nice. And then the wireless charger kind of holds the phone in front of the volume knob. One of the only other annoying things is that you can't control the vents independently from the infotainment system, but this has one of the best automatic climate controls that I've experienced. So I have actually been leaving this in auto this week because it is not worth going in and constantly adjusting the vents, and I've honestly have been okay in auto. But come on, Polestar, give me some little tabs if I want to adjust these myself. Okay, let's go into reverse. Let's go for a drive and show you what this is like. Lots to talk about. 360 camera, as you can see above there, and reverse camera, obviously very high quality cameras, as they should be, because this is kind of like a phone. You know, Polestar, they seem to be a bit more of a tech company than a car company. So all of the tech stuff should work flawlessly. And for the most part, it does. Now, obviously, you guys know that Polestar, there goes Uncle Dan, Polestar is related to Volvo because they're both owned by Geely, which is a Chinese company. So there are characteristics here that feel very Volvo-like. When you adjust the steering into its lightest setting, it is seriously pinky light in this car, which is excellent. It's one of my favorite parts about Volvos is how effortless they are to move around. Additionally, the adaptive dampers do a really good job soaking up the bumps and compensating for these massive 22-inch wheels. For my personal setting, I have everything in comfort, everything in soft, but I've got my quick access button attached to my throttle response, which I have been switching it to performance mode a lot. And we're actually going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, easy as that. Hit that button there on the left. We're going to pray for my camera and camera charger, but the throttle response is now instantaneous. Ready? Now, this is 5,200 pounds of Polestar, so it's 2.5 tons, over 2.5 tons. But somehow, this 544 horsepower is able to move it in ways that you really wouldn't expect. And this is kind of just the thing with EVs. You know, you read the number on paper, you read how heavy they are, and you think that can't be that fast. But the fact that it's able to put down the 544 and the 506 torque instantly is really quite impressive. Additionally, the handling is quite satisfactory as well, but obviously we are following Ann's cement truck right now, so we're going to take it easy. But this actually gives us a chance to go in and toggle some different things for our drive. So power delivery is already in performance. I'm gonna leave the steering in light, but I wanna put the suspension feel into firm, and we'll go around and we'll do this corner one more time once Mr. Cement Truck is out of our way. It's also worth mentioning, this has allegedly a 280 miles of range, but at 69%, we're showing only 159 miles. It's just ticked over too. So range is affected a bit by the cold. I mean, it's not horribly cold. It's 41 degrees Fahrenheit out today. So quick. Does a pretty good job controlling itself. Also, why are my lights not on? I had these in auto earlier and they were on. Okay, we're gonna turn the lights on once we're out of this corner. It's a problem with automatic lights in a car like this. Okay, let's get this in here. It's a big heavy thing, but man, it's pretty dialed in around a corner. I mean, it pushes a little bit. It can't hide its weight permanently. Okay, let's see. Exterior headlights. Confirm the change, yes. Okay. Why is it that much of a hassle to put the headlights on? This is the thing. Auto headlights, great. I use them 90% of the time, but sometimes you need to just put the headlights on. And I don't want to have to go searching in the infotainment. I wonder if you can set the headlights as a shortcut. That's such a silly thing to even think about, having to set your headlights as a shortcut. Okay, there's nobody coming behind us. Let's do a quick launch. See how this thing gets off the line. struggling for grip there. Obviously the snow tires doing their part. If we had summers, we would have just been spinning all four like crazy, but gets off the line pretty easily. Really well calibrated traction control system. I mean, super intelligent and pretty safe, but it does allow for just a little bit of slip. It doesn't completely cut power when you're trying to get yourself off the line. I'm used to dropping the windows here to make a racket, like if I'm in a GT3 or something, but this doesn't even have interior sounds, which I think is fine. You know, I never really desire to have fake propulsion sounds in an EV. I never really am charmed by them. The only time I think they're okay is in BMWs, because they're made by Hans Zimmer and they are lovely and they're fun, but most of the time I turn those off too. So I think with this just being straightforward, not having any of the gimmicks as far as that goes, is okay. I don't miss them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Now, once you're on the highway, you don't go like a Tesla and put this back down into drive like you would with your column shifter. You've got actual cruise control buttons here. And you just hit this little middle one once, and it does the thing. See, I'm in cruise control mode with steering right now, so this has like the pilot assist. Apparently there's police up here, and we'll wait and see if that's true or not. And then you can adjust your speed with these physical buttons here, up and down on either side of your shortcut buttons. Oh man, this doesn't have a grip sensor, it's got a torque sensor, that's a shame. So you've also got a button here to cancel cruise control, and then you've got a button to resume the cruise control, which will resume even after you've canceled. That's nice to see. Look at this first gen Panamera, my goodness. Lower trim and exterior color. What a machine. I wonder if this will do a lane change for me. It will not. At least in the setting I'm in right now, it will not. Highway manners are pretty good. You do get a little bit of road intrusion, but I'm blaming some of that on the snow tire that we're on right now. Wind intrusion is pretty minimal here in this car. For the most part, it's quiet. However, for some reason, Polestar cannot figure out how to make their A-pillars not make wind noise. Now, it's not horrible on this. The Polestar 3 that we drove last year had a whistle that was very irritating. You had to have the music up constantly or it drove you nuts. This, you can hear it a little bit. I'll see if you guys can hear. It's a little bit coming, I think, from this A-pillar. Speaking of the A-pillar, we have this driver monitoring camera on here, which looks like a gauge pod, kind of, if it were bigger. It looked like a boost gauge. But no, the sole purpose of this is to watch you and make sure you're paying attention to the road so it can still give you the driver assist that you have requested. As far as sitting in this goes, it is pretty nice. The seat comfort is the star of the show here. It's got lots of adjustment, and the bridge of weir leather is nice and soft and aids you in kind of just sinking into this seat and feeling very comfy. I've felt no fatigue in this. I've put some miles on this car this week. I've been driving it for the past 3 days or so, and it's been good. Now, the center console, it does intrude a bit on where I would normally be resting my leg on a trip like this, because it kind of angles towards the driver. Luckily, it's padded a little bit. They've got it wrapped in this, I think this bit here is synthetic, or maybe it's real leather, I can't tell. But you've got a little bit of padding. It's not great. Okay, that is applying the brakes while my foot is on the accelerator. I don't like that. So would maybe like to see this angle in a bit or something. I don't know, maybe that would add to the design of this as well. But otherwise in here, seating position is pretty good. I've got the seat in its lowest position. I can see everything I need, obviously, except out the back because there's no rear window. But the frameless driver adjustments changed. I didn't remember changing them. The frameless mirrors, those do a pretty good job. They're a little small. I would say they could maybe be a little bit bigger, but obviously in an electric car, you know, they're worried about range and being as slippery as possible. So it makes sense that they would make those a little bit smaller. Steering wheel, I think, feels great in the hands. It's pretty to look at, and it's nice when you're doing some performance driving as well, which, check this out, we are getting the entrance ramp to ourselves today. And you know what? I'm not going to touch the suspension. I'm leaving that in soft. I'm leaving the steering in light. And we're going to get into the brakes just a little bit. Holy crap. I know that didn't sound super dramatic from the tires, but I got, if you guys noticed that message that said the dash cam was emergency recording because of the the G-forces we were getting there. Oh yeah, it's got a built-in dash cam too, which is cool. I feel like things like this you kind of expect in high-tech EVs these days, you know, dash cams, all sorts of cameras everywhere, just good tech, and that's what this car has. Now, I want to mention, and I wanted to mention this when we were going a bit slower, this has some of the best one-pedal drive tuning I've ever felt in any EV, and it's hard to showcase that on the highway, but you'll see it once we get off here in about 10 minutes. But this will fully one-pedal drive, and you've got three different settings off, and then you've got setting 1 and setting 2. But the programming is just perfect. I mean, you take your foot off the accelerator and it just comes to a stop exactly where you'd expect it to. You never have to touch the brake pedal unless you're coming into an exit ramp like that. You want to have a little bit more brakes, but the brakes feel fine. I mean, it's not the best feeling brake pedal I've ever felt, but it's good enough. It doesn't feel like a sponge like a Nissan EV, so I appreciate that about it too. I also like that you get your own independent cluster here, as opposed to like driving a Tesla where you only have the center display, because it means you can devote the entire center display to Apple CarPlay or having your widgets and your map on half, and you can still have your speedo here in front of you and your range and all of that stuff. And this still puts your map here in front of you. So I have Waze going on this screen and this screen. So we talked earlier about the 16-speaker Harman Kardon. Why don't we give you guys a taste of what that's like? It's quite an impressive sound system. It's not quite as good as the Bowers & Wilkins in a top-tier Volvo, or even, doesn't the Polestar 3 have a Bowers? I feel like it did. If I'm remembering correctly. I love this volume knob down here. Listen to those clicks. So, pretty good performance here. The only thing I've noticed this week is occasionally these speakers here, the tweeters here in front of the mirrors, they can blow out pretty easily. And I don't know if it's because somebody before me just blew them out or because they're just a little bit weak. But when you listen to songs that have very defined highs and very defined lows, this sounds excellent. Where these start to trip up is where you have songs that have like a lot of guitar kind of like in the mid-range. It blows out a lot and it's really just not a pleasant sound. So for, I would say, like 70% of music, they do fine. And again, this could just be this car. I mean, shoot, it's VIN 00001, so I'm sure this is a pre-production unit that probably needs a bit of tweaking, but this sound system definitely has the bones to be very good. Would I like to see a Bowers & Wilkins in here? Absolutely I would. But the Harman Kardon systems usually do a pretty good job in Volvos too, so no serious complaints here. One thing I like about this too is you still get that immediate throttle response in performance mode, even when you're at highway speeds. I mean, it still punches you in the back. So you have that torque all the way up to, get ready for, what do you guys think the top speed of this car is? Go ahead, guess. No, 123. So it does 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. And the top speed's only 123. So it probably gets to its top speed in like 10 seconds. I haven't tried it, but I bet it gets there pretty quick, which is just so funny that they limit it to that. I mean, you could argue, when are you ever going to need to go over 120 something miles an hour? But come on, this is European. It should be able to go on the Autobahn at 150 or 160 if it wants to. I am quite impressed with the ride quality in this, the way it's able to kind of dampen these big expansion joints right now while our roads are completely crumbling here in Michigan. But the rebound isn't excessive. Like, it has enough suspension travel to where it can, it doesn't really like jostle you or like freak you out when it's coming down. Also, the auto wipers are nice. I haven't had to touch those at all this week. They just know what they're doing. I wonder if I'm going to have to manually turn these lights off, or if the car is just going to know to turn them off. I guess we'll find out when we park. Maneuverability in this seems all right. I mean, it does honestly feel kind of big. I think just because it is big. The only place where the steering is a little bit nervous is when you're changing lanes in a quick fashion like I have been doing here. Because there's a little bit of a delay to the input on a fast lane change. I think it's because it slows the rack quite a bit when you're on the highway. So we'll exaggerate one here. See that? There's a little bit of a delay from there. It's only about half a second, but from my input to the actual input of the car, it's not immediate. So we'll exaggerate this here. One pedal drive, you can see, coming in nice and even. And then we can apply our throttle. And this super safely gets you up to speed. I mean, you can see there, I pretty much matted it out of the corner, and it just controlled itself so well. No weird tail happiness, no crazy understeer. It's not spinning up its front wheels like mad. However, it can't cure you from the idiot in the Chevy Trax that merges at 53 miles an hour. What are we doing, guys? I honestly think people wake up and they make it their mission to make other people late and irritated on their morning commute. There's no other explanation for it. Okay, let's do our washers here, which obviously you don't pull this towards you because that would flash the brights. So you push this little button on the end of the stalk and it does your washer fluid. As we prepare to exit here, which I think we'll jump in behind this FedEx truck, watch the camera mirror as I put my signal on here to change lanes. And now watch it again. It rotates slightly when you put your signal on. So that's kind of neat. You can see a little bit more of what you're turning into. But I figured we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Now, do I think this drives in a super unique manner from really any other EV? Not really, but this kind of irons out some complaints with calibration that I have with probably about 50% of the market. The one pedal driving is excellent. I like the steering in most cases. The ride quality is really nice. The tech in here works pretty well, and you do still get a volume knob. There are some things in here I don't like, obviously the whole climate panels in here, the headlight switches in the infotainment, but I like that they give you some shortcuts here on the steering wheel with physical buttons. It makes everything quite a lot easier. So in a very untraditional fashion, for a Polestar vehicle, I've actually gotten pretty used to this car this week, and it hasn't made me crash out as much as the Polestar 3 did, so I would call that a win for this. But also, it just feels nice. The interior quality feels good, nothing's rattling in here. You've just got that one little bit of NVH with the wind noise on the A-pillar. But for the most part, it's a pretty nice car. I mean, you gotta cut Polestar a little bit of slack. I know that they're basically Volvo, but they are pretty new as a standalone company. They haven't been doing this for all that long. So they're not always gonna have perfection in their first couple of models, and I think this Polestar 4 is heading in the right direction. It's doing some of the right things that I'm thrilled actually to see. So keep coming with the physical controls. They're getting there. And I don't know, maybe give the next one a rear window? Is that too much to ask? Jokes aside, the lack of a rear window has not really affected me. But that's because the camera's been working. I mean, who's to say in 10, 20, 30 years, I mean, this car won't be relevant then anyway, but I don't know. It's a little bit of a dilemma because it really just shows that they're kind of only concerned about the first owner. You can lease these right now for $600 a month. I don't think this person knows where they're going. Okay. Oh. Very erratic movements. The person also woke up this morning and chose violence. Anyway, let's get this pulled into Vintique Motors. We'll get it parked. We'll give you one last look at it. Steering rack is pretty quick at low speeds. Helps you do normal stuff. I'll show you how these cameras work when it comes to parking. I actually like that you don't have to have your foot on the brake to put it into reverse because the one pedal drive effectively is the brakes. I love to see how perfect I can get this with the 360 camera. Okay. Also, you get your 12 o'clock marker in silver, so it's always easy to tell if you're going hand over hand. You can always tell where the top of the wheel is. But since this doesn't have a stop-start button, you just get out. With an actual door handle, too. It doesn't have a button to get out, which is surprising because even the Jeep Cherokee I was driving last week had a button to get out. So there's its silly little lock sound. But there you go. That's been a morning commute in the Polestar 4, and really at no point today did it make me angry. So I would call that a win for a modern EV with lots of things in the screen, or maybe I'm just getting used to these cars at this point. But let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think they could have done different. But that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.